Hello, YouTube. We are the Nerdosphere. We are recording our weekly podcast this evening live. We hope you enjoy our discussion. While we are in the midst of the podcast, we do not interact with chat. We are reading chat, but just for the sake of our audio listeners in the podcast that we put out, we won't be engaging in chat, but don't let that stop you from engaging with everyone else in the chat. So, without further ado, we're gonna get started. As soon as I text my wife and tell my boys to be quiet.
Smells like piss in here.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the Nerdosphere. I'm one of your hosts, Clayton, joined as always by the biggest palate this side of the Mississippi, the most magnificent mustache this side of the Mississippi, Corbin.
Cheers to you, good sir. Hip, hip.
Yes.
Yes. How have you been doing this week? I have been doing quite fine, I must say. I've got myself a nice bottle of wine, a nice red that isn't too sweet, not too dry. It's somewhere right in the middle. It's good wine. It's got blueberry and plum notes with a dash of cinnamon, so it's not too earthy, but it's also not too juicy, I must say. And because I'm also a 30-year-old man, I have a gallon of water to chug this bottle of wine.
Awesome. We're also joined.
Awesome.
You smell that, Corbin?
What?
Uh-oh.
He smells like a baka. Aaron Yeager. It's Tim.
Tim Selleck.
I was getting ready to
Tim
say
Selleck. Dang
That's
it.
what we're going with now, right?
How'd you forget? I even made a picture.
It's the best picture Corbin's ever made. It's magnificent.
That kind of hurts, but also at the same time, I totally get it. So for those who are the YouTube audience, this is... Hang on.
There it is.
Tim... What can I do for you? Shut up, Siri. Tim Selleck.
Damn, I look good.
Well,
I look good. That's going to be me after November.
Kind of look like a Native American Dr. Phil.
I guess I could see that, yeah. Native, the Cherokee Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Cherokee Phil.
It's been a great intro, boys.
Tim Selleck. Yeah, I dropped the ball on that, but that's what you're going to be going forward. Tim Selleck.
Yes. But
so how
how
are we
are
doing?
you, Tim?
Yeah, how are you, Tim? Corbin's
Tim
drinking blueberry reds.
it's not blueberry wine. It just has
Cinnamon,
notes of
blueberry,
blueberry.
notes of blueberry.
It's an Australian wine. Now, the mistake
extra.
that I've made with this is I'm really just trying to drink it out of necessity to get rid of it, because this was the leftover wine from that like wine and paint date that I went on with Morgan.
It's like a week old at this point.
So it is a little bit, so it's kind of old, but also like wines like from Australia and France and things of called like old world wine are designed to be drunk with food. California wines, things like that, which are considered new world wines, those are the ones that are more friendly to your palate to drink like on their own. And I'm finding that so prevalently true right now as I am trying to just chug this wine, and I've already eaten my dinner.
You poured like a very full glass of wine too.
This is my third glass.
It's a very healthy pour, so good luck.
That's how all of my wine glasses look when I pour them to the tippy top.
You gotta leave some room to breathe, Clayton. You can't pull it to the tippy top.
Tippy top.
But it's my third glass, so the bottle is got probably like one more
You're definitely going to need that water. You're going to be
Healthy
hungover
poor.
as shit tomorrow if you don't drink that water.
Maybe.
That's why I don't
Do I
drink
dare?
wine.
Do I dare?
Wine's like hangover fuel for me for some reason.
I rarely get hangovers, especially from wine. But
Mm,
wine
just wait a couple
elevates,
years.
if you're eating great food, wine elevates it. So I do enjoy it.
Clayton, do you get hangovers? Is this a Viking thing that there's no hangovers, or is this just
Probably.
that
Most of the
Corbin
time,
has an
Skull.
ADHD?
Skull.
Now, I did think that vodka gave me
Vodka.
hangovers because when I first started drinking noons, I was getting headaches, and I thought it was because, well, I'm drinking these high noons and I'm getting hangovers. But I haven't got them, so I must have just been going through a phase like I do sometimes where I just have headaches. So no, to answer your question, it's a Viking thing. We have
It's a Viking thing.
Man, I'm such a disappointment. I'm a disappointment to men everywhere because I can go have 3 decent beers, not like a Bud Light or a Busch Light, like, like a brewery style beer. I can go have 3, feel perfectly fine, go home, wake up in the morning with a headache. It's fucking awful. This is something that just started like 2 months ago. It makes me not want to drink anymore. It's like every single morning the next day I feel like dog shit.
You're going to have to start prepping, hydrating excessively.
I mean, I drink close to a gallon of water a day as it is.
Extra strength Advil before going to sleep.
I need to start that. I've also noticed that Pedialyte is your friend. Like, if I have more than a handful of beers, I'm drinking Pedialyte before bed, which feels so disgustingly old. I'm just fucking old at this point. It's terrible.
You are.
Yeah, you just can't hang with the cool kids no more.
I can't.
You dork.
I'm too weak. So in other news, I ventured out to the theaters last night by myself last night, and I went and checked out the new Candyman movie.
Oh.
And I want to give you guys a 1-minute spoiler-free review.
I'm starting your time now.
Yep. So first off, you need to watch the original Candyman first.
Are you sure? I've heard that that's not the case.
You're cutting into my minute, Corbin.
I know.
They do a pretty decent job of trying to fill you in on what you missed in a Harry Potter-like style. Like how Harry Potter did like the weird cutscenes with the cartoons that went through the what is it, the Bartle, the whatever the name of the story was. Anyway,
the Deathly Hallows?
Yeah, but it was the name of the story is what I'm thinking of. The Beetle and the Bard. Anyway, my minute's gone at this point. Go see the movie. Did I get it? 1 minute?
You have 20 seconds left.
Okay. I'm going to go way over a minute. So you should see the first one, the 1993 Candyman, before you see the new one, because the new movie acts as both a sequel and kind of a soft reboot of the character. And while you could watch the new movie without seeing the original one first, I think you'd just be missing on some of the plot
and
points
that's 1 minute.
on.
Thanks for your 1 minute review, Tim. Let's move on. No, I'm just kidding.
It just wouldn't mean as much to you if you missed the original one. So I rewatched the original one 2 nights ago, watched the new one last night. The 93 Candyman, not very scary, but the story's really, really, I don't know if there's one that you can rewatch today that doesn't have that early 90s cheese where you look at it and you say the acting's really good, the story holds up, it's not like in your face cheesy. Like it's a really well done horror movie. So you fast forward to the new one, there's some legitimately scary things. The movie definitely drags through the second act. That almost killed it for me. The third act is awesome. If they make a second Candyman, they did leave it open for a sequel, as you'd imagine. If they make another Candyman, I think you'll look back at this soft reboot and say the movie's really good. If they don't make another Candyman, I think you're going to look at this movie and say it's really pointless. Jordan Peele's, the story's great. There's some great scenery in it. There's some great acting in it. Love the movie. I don't think you need to go see it in theaters. I think you can wait till you can stream it somewhere for free because it didn't blow me away. I wouldn't call it top tier. It's just right below that. So definitely worth your time though. I was happy. What was really cool is I went Monday night and the movie theater was like half full. which kind of blew my mind because we've been watching box office numbers. We've been talking about box office numbers on the podcast. I went to an 8 p.m. show. I'm like, it's going to be dead. No, it was like half full. So I don't know. Pretty refreshing for me to walk into a theater and there actually be people in there.
Nice.
I will say, while I love seeing people in a movie theater, I also hate people in a movie theater because there was a group of probably like seniors in high school, that age group of girls that walked in 25 minutes after the movie started. All right. It's a 90-minute movie. So you've already missed a third of the damn movie. And they walk in and they were those stereotypical girls that were sitting there talking during the whole movie. And like, you could tell that they didn't understand what was happening because like they'd realize there'd be like this aha moment and everybody who's there probably got it a full minute before they did. And they're saying it out loud like, oh my gosh, that's the guy from the beginning. Or, oh my gosh, that's this thing that happened. And they're like audibly saying it this loud. It was so frustrating to be in a scary movie and have people talking at the movie the entire time.
Well, I've told you since the theaters opened up, the rude behavior has exponentially gotten higher because people have gotten used to watching movies in their living rooms. And also like the pandemic in general has made like people in the retail space like the worst they've ever been. They are such fucking pieces of shit. And it carries over into the movies and they think that they are the only ones there. They're so fucking entitled. In fact, I'm glad you brought this up, Tim. I'm really boiled right now. And while I would love to talk about this, we should do a nerd tea of Corb's rules to the theater. And if you can't abide by them, fucking get it on premium and stay in the goddamn house. Because I don't want to see your ass in the theater and stay the fuck home. Because I'm tired about you ruining my theater experience because I paid for it.
I mean, I felt like a crotchety old man because I almost said something multiple times. Like they were texting. They were texting, but they had their ringtone on. And after the first one, like, okay, that should be their moment to realize they need to put their phones down. Nope.
Did you say anything?
3 or 4. I mean, I was pretty. I would have had to like get up and like say something out loud. Like they weren't right next to me. They were like a row up and then all the way on the end, and I'm closer to the other end. So the cell phone going off, they clearly brought their own snacks in because you could hear like a Walmart sack, like rustling around. At one point they used the flashlight on their phone to try to like look and see what was in this bag. And this is a scary movie. It's like a dark atmospheric movie. And then all of a sudden somebody's flashlight on their phone goes off. They were yelling at the screen at certain moments, like, girl, don't go down there. Don't open that door. Don't you do. I know you're not going to do it. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Dude, that reminds me of Clayton. You might remember this. This is one of the rare occasions where it was just you, me, and Nick that went to go see a movie. And we went to go see Paranormal Activity. And it might have been the third one. I don't know. But we ended up going for out of necessity. We had to go to the Crestwood Theater, which if you're from St. Louis, I'll sure give you a vibe of the space. But we had to like sit towards the beginning of the theater. And the theater was the noisiest I had ever been inside of. People just would not shut up. And something just boiled in over me. And I turned around and I yelled at the entire auditorium to shut up. And they didn't. But still, if you know me, you know I don't like confrontation. You know that I'm like a hardcore introvert. I always go in my shell. But this was just, the theater is a sacred place. And if you desecrate it with your rudeness and your selfishness, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. I will murder you. But not in the that statement doesn't age well.
Candyman, if you guys haven't watched the original, it's definitely worth your time. Go into it. Don't expect a Friday the 13th slasher style movie. A lot of people do. It's definitely more poetic. There's definitely a bigger story to be told that carries through to the second one. And it was even more powerful when you just think about the Black Lives Matters movement and some of the struggles that have been going on there. So I think it's a movie that most people should watch just because of that. It shows a different side of horror. And it was a refreshing take. You know, and the last thing, the trailers I got before the movie had me so hype trailers that I guess I haven't really paid attention to, or they're new and I haven't really seen them. The new, like the most recent Bond trailer they played looked fucking awesome. And you guys know me, like I'm ready to get hurt again. Every other Daniel Craig Bond movie seems to be really good. And then the next one is like terrible. The most recent trailer, it looked fucking awesome. So that had me hyped. And Halloween Kills, I don't know how I've missed this trailer, but the most recent trailer is fucking good. It not only shows like Michael Myers getting out of the burning house, but it shows the different side of Laurie Strode where like it looks like the town's like trying to stand up and fight him. And it's not just Laurie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a side that we haven't really seen in that universe where all of a sudden the slashers like got 7 people standing around with baseball bats that are ready to fight them. So I don't know, man. I'm so excited for some of the movies coming out. We are, as long as Delta doesn't derail us, and I'm very optimistic based on some of the more recent numbers that we've seen that we're still going to get these movies this year. I think we have a couple of like gems that could be coming out this year.
One can only hope. I'll be making my way to the theater this weekend because Shang-Chi is coming out, baby. In fact, I even thought about doing this thing. It's an old Corbynism. It's something that I'm not proud of. I used to do this all the time. I used to do it to Clayton. I used to do it to Nick. I used to do it to so many people. But Morgan really wants to see this movie in theaters together, and she doesn't get back in town until Saturday. But I might have to go see it on Thursday, and then also have my first viewing with her on Sunday, where I just pretend.
Corbin does this all the time.
I used to do this.
He goes to see movies.
Sometimes I would have plans to see it with Clayton and Nick, and I would see it by myself before.
Yeah, he goes to see movies
because I couldn't wait.
Yeah, either by himself or with different groups of people, and every time he goes to see it, it's his first experience, and you don't find out until way later that, oh yeah, I actually saw it. What do you mean you saw it 5 times? It's only been out since Friday. Yeah, I went here. But we went Friday at 8 p.m.
Yeah, I took the day off work.
So
I'm very selective with who I see movies with, because based on our conversation alone, obviously the atmosphere and the vibe that you have is very important. How the movie is consumed, but there are some times where I just can't wait. I want to be there on that Thursday. I want to be there in that electricity of like, I'm with the first people seeing this movie. And if like, I can't see with you until like that Sunday or Monday, I don't want to ruin the experience for you. Like you're seeing with someone who's seen it already. So I'm going to preserve that experience by pretending that I haven't seen it before. So it's all an act of love.
There are very few movies that I feel that passionate about. I do prefer to go on Thursdays. I'm not going to be able to go this week. I'm going to be a single dad Thursday and Friday. Jody's going out of town with some friends, which is awesome. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm a better person than you, because I'm just going to wait till Sunday and go see it with my family as opposed to seeing it Thursday alone.
Yeah, I probably would find a movie to drop my kids off in, and then I would go to the neighboring theater and watch Shang-Chi.
Kids, go see Candyman.
100%.
Daddy's going to be next door watching Shang-Chi.
Exactly.
See you in 3 hours. You're going to have to watch Candyman twice. Sorry.
Oh, God. Well, I can meet you up there, Corbin. We can go see.
Thursday?
Yeah, let me see if I can get somebody to watch The Boys for a couple hours.
Bam.
Been a while.
Don't get me excited like this. I'm wine drunk right now. Oh my God.
It's been a while since we have seen an opening.
It's been a while since I have
Let's get Green Lantern Man.
Oh,
let's find him on Facebook.
Dear God.
Facebook. He might be there.
He will be.
Dear God. Will be. No.
All right. Well, I was going to talk about some of the stuff I've been doing, but we've been talking about this for a while, so we probably should move on. If you didn't know, this is the Nerdosphere. We're a podcast that discusses everything from the big screen to the small screen and anything in between, whether it be a TV, a show, a music, or a book. Yeah, a music. If you can nerd out about it, we'll talk about it. And tonight, we're going to be discussing A Quiet Place Part 2, because it is free now on Paramount Plus, and if you haven't seen it, you're missing out on potentially this year's best movie, or at least contender for best movie. Corbin is being very weird right now. I don't understand.
Go get the Charizard. You haven't shown us those things since you got them.
Oh, you're looking at my background.
Off of TikTok. You haven't shown us those. Go get it.
All right, hang on.
Is it just the one?
Yeah, I ordered 9 and they sent me 1.
They called you greedy.
I guess 9 free things was just
too much.
For those
I
listening,
can't believe you
Clayton
could
is
see
grabbing-
that.
Oh my god.
All right, so let's try to get this without glare.
Dude, that looks so good.
Yeah,
The quality is so good.
it's very awesome.
There's no pixelation or anything.
No pixelation, and they make sizes even bigger than this. So I actually kind of want to get my D&D characters in a bigger metal sheet like this. How awesome would that artwork be?
Dude, that'd be dope as fuck, dude.
Yeah. Is that the only thing you were looking at back there? Do I need to pull something else up here for a show?
No,
please?
I think that's the only thing.
Okay.
I really like your Destiny Ghost. I had one, but
Did you lose it?
divorce collateral.
Oof. That's too
There's
bad.
just certain things that just like weirdly slip through the cracks, and since I didn't have like access to like go get them, I just had to trust that my ex-mother-in-law packaged everything up, and then after that, communicado was just cut off. So like, there's other stuff there. Either they threw it away or it's still in the basement. But that ghost is something that I'm missing. I also had this police box that I painted blue, and then I put interior lighting, and I had like a bunch of Doctor Who memorabilia inside of it, and that's still there. So, yay.
I could just see like an average mother-in-law. Trash. It's a toy. Trash. Trash. And it's like $100.
Well, Pam in particular, like you take the caricature of like a mother-in-law and then like dumb it down to like the most idiocracy possible, and that's kind of her. So,
like those commercials where like the ants move in. It's a big house. Hope you can keep it clean. You know, like just that kind of mentality.
Yes. But I didn't mean to derail everything. It's a gorgeous piece to your nerd room. And for those listening, I don't know who they are, but we found them on TikTok. But it's a giant Charizard card. It's like a metal plate, and it's absolutely gorgeous. The quality is pristine.
If you're interested, reach out and I'll let you know the company. I'd have to look it up.
I feel like I'll reach out.
I follow them on TikTok, but if you
Yeah.
open up TikTok, it starts making noise. So I'm not gonna do that.
Exactly. Back to A Quiet Place 2. It is free on Paramount Plus. So we missed the boat on reviewing it in theaters, but now is the most opportune time to talk about it because some people might not even realize that it's there for free.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing to me how under the radar this movie has been, because we're gonna do a spoiler-free review here. Are we going full spoilers?
Oh, we're going full spoilers. Spoiler-free review is this. The movie is fucking lit as shit. Go watch it and listen to the rest of this podcast. End of spoiler-free.
Yep. Okay, so diving into the movie, it maybe is the best movie I'm going to watch this year. Like, I've seen it twice now. I did not expect to say that coming into this year. I really enjoyed A Quiet Place. I thought it was incredibly well done, and somehow A Quiet Place 2 took what I loved and elevated pretty much every element of it. I watched it in theaters. I watched it 2 weeks ago with my daughter. She's 9 years old. So, if you have a kid that's in that age range that's okay with PG-13 horror, it's an okay movie to watch with kiddos. And both of us were just sitting there with our jaws on the floor. And I'd already seen it once. So it doesn't lose any of its value on subsequent viewings, which I think is something a lot of horror movies get. You get diminishing returns as you watch the movie over and over again. And that's not the case with A Quiet Place, because the story's really good, the acting's really good, and it is incredibly suspenseful even after a second or third watch. I really do think it's a contender for Picture of the Year.
They do a really good job. Definitely the suspenseful moments are just like they're palpable every time, because it's not about jump scares. It's about tension in the story. But before we dive into like specifics of the movie, I do want to just quickly talk about something that I enjoy in film, which is composers. But Marco Beltrami returned to this movie. He did the music in the first one and a few other things that are to his credit, which are kind of interesting in my opinion. Is more recently, he did all 3 Fear Streets, which is really cool. Because that's like definitely the one thing I enjoyed in those movies was the music and kind of the tone. And then he also does the Twilight Zone series that is on CBS All Access is what it's called now, or is it called something else now?
That became Paramount Plus.
That became Paramount. Okay, so it's on the same platform. He also did Ford versus Ferrari and Velvet Buzzsaw. I remember Velvet Buzzsaw was really good. But one reason why I wanted to talk about that is on a movie like A Quiet Place, music is so key because it's so challenging, because you don't want it to overshadow what's happening, because everything in this movie is about on-screen tension, particularly absence of sound. So you want when the music to play to be something that is fitting to the world, but doesn't overshadow the fact that this movie is primarily silent. And I feel like they did an exceptional job there.
So before we start breaking down what we loved, maybe what could have been improved, everybody knows Corbin and I love this movie. Clayton, you kind of teased it. Is that how you're feeling too? That you think it's a true contender for movie of the year, or did you have different thoughts?
That was for flair. This movie is good, but it's not nearly as good as the first one.
Interesting. I don't agree with that at all.
I completely agree with all of your takes. The first one is just better. So it's a great movie. Don't get me wrong. The first one's just better. This movie was tense. The acting was phenomenal. The story's great. But the one thing that just really gripped me in the first one was John Krasinski's character and his performance and the way his character sacrificed himself. There was never really a moment like that in this movie. There was never a moment where I teared up. There was definitely moments where I was like at the edge of my seat, like antsy, like for the characters, worried for the characters. I really expected somebody else to die in this movie. So, I mean, it was good. It definitely propels the series forward. I can probably confidently say there'll be a third one.
There's a third and a spinoff.
Oh yeah, they did announce that spinoff, didn't they? Anyways, without John Krasinski is just lacking a little bit for me. So
I'm really surprised, because to me, at a certain point, the movie takes on the feel of The Last of Us. And I thought for sure that was going to be gripping for you. It definitely had moments where I'm like, okay, like the sound monster is kind of like a clicker, and you have the same story type moving forward. So I'm surprised you didn't like it better. I thought it was better. For my money, the opening sequence, the prequel to A Quiet Place that shows Day Zero, is the best scene we have in any movie, and it's one of the best scenes I've seen in any horror movies.
So I would
which is a big statement. I love horror movies, but that first 10 or 15 minutes, it is as good as it gets.
I would agree with you, but the whole time I couldn't stop thinking, how did the monsters get there so quick? And how did they know to be quiet so quick?
I feel like that's just a normal
I think the quiet
reaction.
is a normal response. When someone breaks into your home, you immediately just shut up.
Yeah, they were being weirdly quiet.
I think that's a little nitpicky.
I
I don't know what else you would do. Like, you're in like the moment where it really became obvious. They go into that diner and they're all on the floor as the monster's outside. Like I can't imagine any situation where you can see the silhouette of a monster outside of a glass pane and your instincts not to shut up and be as quiet as you can be. Especially like almost everybody in there probably fleed to get into this spot because they've seen the monsters obliterate the town in the course of minutes. So you have to imagine most of them have seen what's happened. It's like you said, it's like, I think that's the natural human condition is to.
I agree, but the mannerisms, they definitely still focused on you gotta be quiet in that opening sequence. And
yeah.
I mean, I noticed it. So
I thought they did a good job because you had multiple people that weren't being quiet that you could see Krasinski like instantly was thinking we need to shut up or we're going to die. So you had the old man in the corner who was praying to himself under his breath, and he reaches over and puts his hand on him saying, shut up, do this to yourself. And then you got the kid on the phone and, he's motioning at the kid at the phone to like, put your phone down. So I thought they did a good job of saying like, there are some people's reactions that's going to be not to be quiet. And you have John Krasinski, who's just a strong male leader who just kind of owns the room and says like, nope, we're not doing this.
You got fucking morons who don't even turn their phones off, and then
but then
rings, and then all hell breaks loose.
How did the monsters get there so quick?
I mean, just because
so quick?
Just because we saw the asteroid there doesn't mean there wasn't another asteroid elsewhere. Also, they could have fallen off of the asteroid and as survived. It was falling. Yeah. I mean, we've definitely seen these things are armor plated and crazy. Like they definitely have purposely left the monsters ambiguous enough to where we can't really say one way or the other what their durability is and what they can and cannot do outside of their weaknesses. High pitched sounds now,
or how far away the plane or asteroid even crashed.
I mean, it was a large object, so it was far away. Far enough away to where a 2-minute walk into town, it wouldn't be swarmed with monsters.
We've also seen how quickly they run, and we don't know what their stamina is. They could have almost like limitless stamina. So they could have fallen off the asteroid from before we even really saw it, and they were just fucking sprinting their little asses off. So, but
then don't you think they would be distracted by like everything making noise? Like they just got there too quick, man. They're attracted by noise. There's animals. There was
like one or two. There wasn't like a flood of these monsters in the town.
There was more than one or two. There was a bunch.
But one of the things,
damn good. If one of the things is they got there too quick.
That's true too.
Well, my criticism is of your take that it's the best intro in any movie.
From a cinematic purpose,
it's good, but
it's top.
There's too many. I've got a couple questions that ruin that for me. So
when I say it's the best in recent history, I'm talking about like the cinematography. Like this movie is
cinematography is great. John Krasinski is a talent.
Is so bold to have such long sweeping shots because there is a stigma with some people, especially in Hollywood, where you have to do long cuts or have to do quick cuts for tension. But you can have high octane sequences and it be long cuts because you start to appreciate this is all happening at one time. And even scenes like Vanity Fair does an interview with John Krasinski where he breaks down the entire first intro like that. And I recommend anyone to go watch it because it's so fucking cool on how he talks about, there's definitely a couple clever breaks where they are able to seam it together so it looks like it's one take when it isn't. But one of the things they did have to do is the practical effects of that cop car flipping and stuff and make sure that everyone was on point. Like that whole opening scene, as far as like cinematography goes, just tickled my fucking brain. And it was so good. Plus, like, I think the best way to start Quiet Place 2 is to give you a taste of John's character because he definitely was the highlight of the first movie. But I really think that Cillian Murphy kind of picked up the reins of this film as a leading man and did a really great job at being a different kind of character. I also think that on the opposite side of that, John Krasinski as a writer and director did a really good job at propelling the daughter to being a convincing and good lead
for sure
for the film as well. Now, my biggest criticisms of this movie, as far as, and this goes to just like continuity issues, I watched A Quiet Place 1 immediately before watching Quiet Place 2, and A Quiet Place 1 ends with the farm being invaded by 4 or 5 other aliens running up on the farmhouse because she shot the shotgun, and she cocks her shotgun, and the daughter like braces for the earpiece, and they're like, okay, we're ready to go. But Quiet Place 2 picks up immediately at that scene, and the farmhouse is not being invaded by aliens, and they aren't really concerned about them being there. And so that was a big issue I had, where I was like, you ended the movie on this tension note of like almost like a last stand sort of situation, but we now have like the upper hand advantage to get out of it. And then this movie picks up in that exact same second, and those things don't exist. Like they would have been in that basement in a second because of that shotgun shot. So
I'll play devil's advocate for that. Not that there's an excuse for that completely, but A Quiet Place really, I think, was meant to be a standalone movie. And I still would almost stand on a soapbox and preach that there needs to be standalone movies, standalone seasons. Like I've said this about Stranger Things. I really think Stranger Things should have been one standalone season, maybe become an anthology film if you really need to keep that show going. A Quiet Place was made to be a standalone movie, and then they wanted to push forward with another one, because even in interviews, John Krasinski is like, well, I wrote this movie, never thought that there'd be another one. I had to come back to it and think about how to do a second one. So while I agree that once that decision is made, you should have it seamlessly transition, but I would also argue that that's why they probably just ignored that bit to make the story work. And
well, then I understand what you mean. Like, I definitely agree to a point, but like, just don't have it start there. Have it start with them on the road so that your imagination fills in the fact that they killed those monsters in the farmhouse. It's the fact that you make it pick up that exact moment where it's like you had complete creative control to remedy the situation. So the fact that you didn't address it irks me just a little bit.
Yeah,
and that
you could have only cut out 3 to 5 minutes and just had them walking up with the house burning behind them, and that'd be the start.
Yeah. But dude, when the kid's foot gets caught in the bear trap,
Oof, I know.
I oofed so hard when I saw that the first time. And that poor kid, because you knew he was trying. And I was like, this is how it ends.
Yep, that's what I thought too.
I mean, it was brutal. It was as bad as the nail in A Quiet Place Part 1, where she's walking down the stairs about to have the baby. Nail goes into her foot. It's one of those moments where you just instantly lock up and you go, oh, because you just know how excruciating it has to be. And then they ramp it up and you put a child there with a freaking bear trap. And I can't imagine the pain. Oh.
That kid is such a good actor too, because he sold that pain and that scream like it was. You can feel it.
The only other thing also is, we know the third one is inevitable. They got to do a time jump because kid actors age so quickly. And that was the only other thing where I was having to force myself to like play pretend that they were the same age, because the boy especially just noticeably aged up and grew so much taller since the first one. So I feel like if they are going to do a third one, man, they got to do a time jump. They can't keep doing this like second pickup from the previous film.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because in the opening scene when he's playing baseball, I said, oh, there was even another kid. And I was like, we're going to see how this other kid dies. But no, it was him.
It's him.
Like,
Yeah, I agree. That was a little bit of a problem. I really don't have very many bad criticisms for this film. The only one that I had that you hadn't mentioned is it felt like a stretch that the monsters made it to the island, right? Like you see the end scene, super tense, monster jumps in the water, going after Killian, can't get to him, find out the monsters can't really swim. We see the monsters jump on the other boat. It seems like that boat's probably not naturally just going to coast to this island within, a couple
Within
of
that
hours of
time.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like the odds of that boat just randomly drifting there while they're still getting settled in, it just seems so slim to me.
Yeah.
That was my only real criticism when watching this movie. It's like, man, it doesn't feel like that boat's making it to that island without somebody steering it,
But speaking of that scene, like I really enjoy when movies like this go to dark places, but holy fuck, that was dark. When you basically realize that like they're going to more than likely rape this girl. And Cillian Murphy essentially like not knowing it's going to work out, like sacrifices himself to like help make the situation right. And like that was just one of those scenes where I was like, oh my gosh. And plus they really set it up to where you just like when they were dying, you like were almost cheering. You're like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
So my mind went to cannibalism because there were females and kids in that group. I didn't go to rape. When they took off her shirt to look at her, that's what I was sizing up, because they kind of gave him the stereotypical like crazy eyes that movies give when they're cannibals.
So
that's
a kid that set the whole thing up.
Yeah, that's where I went.
Yeah, that's where I went too. I think they took the best part of the first seasons of The Walking Dead and implemented that into this movie, where like you get to a point where you realize that, okay, the zombies, like they figure out how to take care of the monsters. And while those are still scary, they're definitely not as scary when you have a microphone in that earpiece. So what do we do to keep that tension and that fear up? Well, we make the next threat be people. And I thought they did a really good job at opening that door, at realizing the survivors that aren't on the island, that have had it rough, they're probably not people worth saving. And I think Cillian even says that in the movie, saying like, hey, the rest of the people out there, they're not worth saving right now. And so to me, that's where the intrigue for the third movie comes in, is realizing that you have this broken world that is probably filled with really bad people, and figuring out how are they going to band together to fight these monsters. It just seems like it's going to be a disaster. So I'm so excited to see what they do in the third installment, because I expect the third installment to be very heavily focused on the survivors and having a lot of them be, for lack of a better way of saying it, Negan, right? Just absolute monsters of people. So I don't know. I'm super excited to see what they do in the third one.
Yeah, I think that this movie did a really great job at really creating and building up to scenes of tension, like the kid locking himself in the canister and not realizing the oxygen tank was going down. There's just a lot of scenes like that where I was like, man, this was expertly crafted. But that scene in particular, the genesis of it all, was something that like kind of irks me in horror movies. But in this movie in particular, it irked me because what was happening was the reaction of dumb decisions by a kid. And I feel like in normal horror movies, a dumb kid decision can almost be explained away because like they're a kid, they're just dumb in general. But this kid has spent like years in this world. Like he should have known better than to like be exploring this factory and moving about where he could possibly make noise. Like, I feel like if this was real life, that kid would be like, no, I understand. I need to stay here till my mom gets back. And that's it. It kind of reminds me of 28 Weeks Later, the cataclysm of that entire movie are these two kids breaking the rules to go to their old childhood home and breaking all of the quarantine protocols and escaping off a military base. And I just feel like that's almost like plot armor, where like in 28 Weeks Later, if this was real life, those kids wouldn't go out into the wild like that. And I feel like this kid, it just feels like it goes, his dad just died and sacrificed himself. I just can't imagine him being in a mind space of like, I'm going to go explore.
The kid is such an interesting character because the mindset doesn't make sense, but then you flash forward to how they escape, right? And like essentially you have the scene where they're all in this tank. The monster's about to get in. Sister saves the day. She starts playing the noise over the radio, takes the headphones off. rips the headphones out of the stereo. Actually, monster starts backing away, and it's his moment to shine and to become, pick up his father's mantle like his sister has. And he goes and kills the monster. And I don't know if maybe some of that was in his mind of, my sister is out there doing an incredibly brave thing. I need to start being brave. And so he makes this incredibly stupid decision to go explore, which, ultimately brings a monster to him. I don't know what the thought process is. That's the only thing I can come back to, is that somewhere in this kid's DNA, he's realizing that he needs to become the man of the family and needs to step up like his sister has.
Yeah. That was for me, that was the biggest criticism that I had, where I was just like, this doesn't seem to add up. It doesn't make sense why this character's actions would be this. And it seems like his actions were only that to progress a tension scenario, which seemed a little cheap compared to other things that just seemed so well orchestrated.
So before we wrap up the topic, I think we're all in agreement. This movie's definitely worth your time, especially if you have Paramount Plus. It's a must watch. It's probably the best movie that you can stream right now that a lot of people haven't seen because it's so new. It's top tier, so you need to watch it. But Corbin, a couple of podcasts ago, it's probably been longer than that, but you started talking about the reaction that the deaf daughter's mother had.
I've been meaning to bring this up.
And I really want you to walk through that, because it was really good.
Yeah. So there's an interesting sound design to this movie, where there's a lot of moments where we get to see is used loosely. We get to hear the world from the perspective of the daughter, where when we are on her shoulder, the world becomes incredibly muted. You can hear a couple loud noises in the background, but for the most part, it's just white noise, empty space. And the inception of that idea was from John Krasinski talking to the actress's mother, because the actress in real life is deaf. And the mother was telling John that that's basically how she perceives the world, that it truly isn't a true deafness of no sound whatsoever. That if she were in the kitchen and an entire kitchen cabinet were to fall over and dishes were to break, she on some level would hear the dishes breaking, right? It wouldn't be we hear it, but that sound is so loud that it would be a soft sound to her. And she would be like, oh, something just fell behind me. And so John took that and wanted to implement that into the movie. And the mom, when she watched it, wept, and then approached John after the movie while she was crying and said, I want to thank you because you've given me something that I thought I would never have. And I got to witness what it's like for my daughter to live in this world. And I never thought that I would ever be able to see that. So thank you. And that was such a powerful story. And when John was recounting the story, he started crying, even just bringing it back up, because he was it was just a really emotional thing to kind of have with her.
Yeah, it's a great story. It sounded like you were about to cry there. I mean,
shut up. I'm on my fourth glass of wine.
It's incredibly powerful to think about trying to experience the world through the eyes of your children. It's something I think every parent does, and it's got to be exponentially harder when your kid is deaf or has some other disability they're fighting. So I love that they put this character and said, hey, this is going to be the character that picks up the mantle and hopefully saves the day. We'll have to wait to the third installment to see what happens. But I really love that she took the mantle and became the main focus moving through this movie.
And it's also really respectable on John Krasinski's part, I think. First and foremost, for a deaf actress to have this opportunity is obviously really cool. And to have that implemented into the film is really unique. But I loved how he's done it in a way where her deafness isn't a weakness for cheapness sake. It's more of just this extra barrier she has to get past. You could 100% make this movie and utilize that deafness as a a drawback or like a true weakness or like something that is extra weight on the other protagonist, and it's like her fault, and they get into trouble because she's deaf and she doesn't understand. But the fact that he's been able to have this character be deaf and have this, physical disability, and it just be an extra challenging barrier, and she still be strong enough to perceive and overcome that. I think that was a bold choice, and I really respect that, because like I said, it would be very easy to have a deaf character and still have those moments of tension, but it always be like a crux in the situation, like she's a burden to the situation.
For sure.
Well said. Clayton, you have any final thoughts on the film?
I do not. I think we covered just about everything. I do have one question. I don't know if I missed this or if it was just heavy insinuation, but are we all in agreement that Cillian Murphy played his brother, or did you not get that feeling?
What do you mean? John's brother?
Yeah.
They weren't brothers. Cillian Murphy had a brother that was on the military base. But he was just a town friend.
They just made it seem like they were really, really familiar.
Well,
I just took small town, lived, within walking distance of each other, essentially. That's the way I took it. I will say he did a great job in that movie, but also there's some creepiness there that could come out of the mix as we go into the third one. Like it's kind of a scene that a lot of people forget about, but there's that scene where when the boy is exploring in a stupid fashion, he walks in and sees the remains of his wife that's not buried, in an incredibly disturbing scene. You remember he walks in, he opens the door, and you could see like the carcass of his dead wife there in like a shrine with like pictures of the kids and stuff around. And you know that he's mourning, and that has to play into it. But it's also incredibly dark and disturbing. So it'll be interesting to see if any of that comes to light, or if maybe we see a different side to Cillian as we, keep exploring.
Yeah.
Definitely. I don't know, but he's a great actor. I'm excited to see him be in more.
Same. All right. Well, that does it for this week's The Nerdosphere. Get your butt over to Paramount Plus if you're a subscriber and watch this movie. If you haven't, enjoy a free month of Paramount Plus and just watch it and cancel, because it's good.
It is good.
If you like what we do and you're on an Apple device, scroll down and give us a rating. 5 stars would be swell. Leave us a word or two if you don't care. If you're not on an Apple device, that's okay. You can help us by sharing with friends and family and acquaintances and coworkers. We guarantee if you like this content, you know somebody else who will as well. And what makes content better? Sharing with those we love. If you really like what we do, go over to patreon.com/thenerdosphere, where you can earn exclusive perks for our patron family only, like ad-free podcasts and our patron-exclusive Nerd Tea podcast, where we talk about stuff that's not nerdy. So get to know us better. Come on over and find us. But until next time, we'll see you. Goodbye.
Toodaloo, fam.